All right, dentists, you're in the middle of a delicate crown prep, completely in the zone. And then you feel it, the tap on your shoulder. Doctor, I have an exam for you and hygiene too. Your focus shatters, you deglove, walk down the hall, and what should be a quick check turns into a prolonged conversation, derailing your main procedure, stressing you out, and putting you behind schedule. What if I told you that entire interruption from the moment you walk into that hygiene room to the moment you walk out could and should take 5 minutes or less? And what if I told you that in those 5 minutes, you could actually diagnose more dentistry with higher case acceptance than you do in your current prolonged exams? Today, I'm going to break down the system for achieving the productive 5-minute hygiene exam. This is not about rushing. It's not about cutting corners. It's about implementing a radically efficient, team-driven system that turns your hygiene checks from a dreaded time-sucking interruption into a powerful, predictable, and profitable part of your day. You see, the perfect hygiene exam is a fine balance. It's about maintaining a real connection with the patient, conveying the feeling of a thorough evaluation that gives them confidence in your care, and building trust as you find things that need to be addressed, all while doing this in as little time as possible. It truly becomes a choreographed dance that needs to be constantly worked on with your team. But the benefits to your practice are huge. The foundational mindset shift, the biggest mistake that dentists make is thinking that the exam starts when you sit down in your stool. It doesn't. The 5-minute in-room exam is only possible because of the 15 minutes of great preparation done by your team before you ever walk through that door. Your role in the operatory is to be the confirmer, the connector, and the closer. You are not there to be the primary data gatherer or detective. That's the hygienist's job. Before you even think about entering the operatory, you should already know 90% of what's going on with the patient. This means that you quickly review the patient's brand new x-rays, their perio chart, and your hygienist notes on your computer in your private office for even just 60 seconds. You get your bearings, identify potential areas of concern, and then you formulate a preliminary plan. So many dentists just go directly from their clinical procedure right into the hygiene room and start talking to the patient. I've worked with lots of doctors, and I'm telling you that there is no way a doctor can do as good of an exam by just walking into the room as opposed to going to the office first and reviewing it from their office. There are just too many distractions, and you have the patient staring at you, and there is no way that you can do a good job that way. Going into your office enables you to context switch into hygiene exam mode. If you do this every time, you'll develop a flow, and it works very well. The next part, the hygienist must have all their diagnostic work completed at the beginning of the appointment so that you have the flexibility to come in at any time. This means that all necessary x-rays are taken, mounted correctly, and are crystal clear. Perio charting is done and entered, and this is a huge one. They should be looking for things like cracks, decalcification, or suspicious areas and taking clear intraoral pictures of them. These photos should be up on the screen and ready for you. They can even begin the education process by mentioning these areas to the patient before you arrive. When it's time for the exam, the handoff needs to be smooth. As you approach the room, your hygienist can meet you for a quick 15-second doorway huddle. They'll say something like, "Mrs. Jones is doing great, no health history changes, perio stable, but I'm concerned about the distal number 14. I have an intraoral photo up for you." She's also mentioned that she's looking into whitening. Now you walk in armed with a complete picture and ready to execute. So what does this 5-minute in-room exam actually look like? Let's just break it down a little bit. Minute 1 is for connection and review. You enter the room with purpose and energy. You greet the patient warmly by name, and you also acknowledge your hygienist. You connect personally for a moment. Something like, "Mrs. Jones, great to see you. I hear you're planning a trip to Florida soon." This shows you're present and that your team communicates. Then you immediately stretch their perceived value of your time by saying something like, "Okay, I've already had a chance to review your new x-rays and your gum measurements, and I'm very pleased with what I'm seeing." This tells the patient that you're prepared, thorough, and that you're in command. Now, minutes 2 and 3 are for the clinical examination. This is a swift, systematic tour of the mouth. You're not necessarily hunting for problems. You are more confirming what you've already seen on the x-rays and the pictures and what your hygienist has pointed out. You verbalize as you go using the talk-over method. You can say something like, "Okay, just like we saw on the x-ray, I'm seeing that shadow on the back upper tooth here." Your hygienist is your co-pilot and anticipating your movements with the mirror and air and ready to reinforce your findings. Your oral cancer screening is efficiently integrated into this flow. Now, minute 4 are the diagnosis and the closing. So here you summarize your findings clearly and concisely with no jargon. You support what your hygienist has already teed up. Something like, so just as Sarah mentioned, that spot on the upper left is a small cavity that's starting. We'll need to get a filling done there to stop it from getting any bigger. Everything else looks great. Then comes the critical handoff. You turn to your hygienist in front of the patient and say, Sarah, can you please get Mrs. Jones scheduled for that one filling and also give her the information on our whitening options? So this transfers authority and provides clear direction and signals that the exam is concluding. And minute 5 is for your exit. You offer a final positive remark. Hey, Mrs. Jones, it was great seeing you today. Keep up the fantastic work, and we'll see you at your next appointment. And then you walk out. You do not linger, any more small talk. You hand off to your hygienist, and this is your cue to leave. Your work in the room is done, and it's time to get back to your own scheduled production. The hygienist will then escort the patient to the front desk where the treatment coordinator is ready to schedule, having already received the necessary information. There's a lot more detail in this. This is a brief overview, and there's a lot more that you can do with additional closing or helping to talk about finance if it's more complicated. But this is just a brief overview, and we're going to probably go into a lot more detail in future videos about exactly the nuance of how to close better. Now, this system isn't just about saving time, although that's a huge benefit, but think about the profitability. Even if you only reduce your average exam time by a few minutes, say from 8 or 9 minutes down to 5, that time saving adds up really fast. Do that 10 or 12 times throughout the day, and you've already reclaimed 40 to 60 minutes of your most valuable asset, your time. That's enough to fit in another crown prep or handle an emergency without derailing your entire day. And when you're not stressed or rushed during the exam because you're so well prepared, you are mentally free to see more, to confidently discuss elective options, and to present more treatment with a clarity and build trust that increases your case acceptance. This is the engine of a highly productive hygiene department. It's a system where everyone knows their role and executes it together with precision. So my challenge to you is this: work with one hygienist this week to perfect just one part of the system. Maybe it's just the doorway huddle. Just that one 15-second efficient pass off or handoff. See how much better prepared and more confident that you feel walking into every single exam. Well, let's keep working together to make dentistry more fun, fulfilling, and rewarding. Subscribe so you don't miss the next strategy, and I'll see you soon.